Hey guys, welcome to another weekly focus, and I hope you've been having a great time in the market. So I'm gonna go straight ahead and do a quick trade recap, and then we can look at the pairs we have for next week, or the opportunities we have for next week. All right guys, so here's the gold position I had. So if you remember from the 9th of July, I spoke about this I think the previous week as well. So we had this initial buy attempt right here. So this was my first buy attempt, and I've scaled in, or I've had another position on this pair. So I had a buy here, the stop loss was right here. And looking at this initial buy, I was expecting prices to get to 34.50, which is this area right here, 34.50. So I was expecting prices to at least test this area right here. So it's the same trade idea I'm still looking at. And I had another position come in. So we had this news effect thing, so you could see the spike and everything. But what this did is it just gave us another opportunity to go in again with another buy. So I had another buy right here. So I have two positions running currently on gold. I had the first one right here, stop loss around this area, and the second one had it right here, and the stop loss right here. So with this one, I just want to see if prices can take out these highs, and depending on what happens, we might close the positions or we might hold it a little bit longer. It just depends on what price is doing. So sometimes I like keeping my take profit or the target points open just to see how price moves and interact at certain points. So I have certain areas I'm watching out for. You have this area right here. So how is price going to react once it gets to an area like this? And I'll look at the chart again. We'll do a quick breakdown and I'll show you guys what I'm actually looking at. So two positions. The first one is still running. So with the first one, we took out these highs already. Then price gave us another structure thing, which is this one. So same trade idea. It's a push, it's a correction, it's a push, it's a correction, and we're just looking for buyers off of those corrections. So it's an impulse correction thing. All right guys, so that's it for the trade recap. So those positions are still open, and I can close it right now. I can manage it like aggressively because it's still open. So let's take some time and look at the other pairs, or let's look at the DXY, look at gold, and see what we'll have for next week. Alright guys, so looking at the DXY on the weekly time frame, I'll start on the weekly time frame real quick. So we've been looking at this piece of price action, I think, for a very long time. We spoke about this drop. We actually watched price move to the downside, and if you zoom in on this pair, let's zoom into an area like this, and I mentioned this last week as well. So what is price doing currently? We've had an impulse from here. So you're looking at this area to this area. That's the impulsive move we're looking at currently. And what price is doing is just a pullback. So price is just pulling back. So with this pullback, we've seen the interaction thing. You have buyers stepping in, and you're expecting buyers to step in from areas like this. So what you can do is look at this movement to the downside, and you try to fit the sellers, and you'll probably see it on the daily time frame better. So what this tells you on the weekly time frame is the sellers have been coming to the downside, and currently you're having price trading outside this trend line. So if you look at this, it's an impulse correction. So you get a push. So price was making lower lows and lower highs, lower lows and lower highs, but currently you have a violation of this trend line right here. So there's a trend line right here. So you're seeing a violation of this trend line with price trading outside. So if I zoom in on this piece of price action, you probably see it better. So yeah, here's a price action thing we're looking at currently. So price was making lower lows and lower highs up into this area. Then you had a breach or a violation at this point. So you have price trading outside now. Now, based on how I look at trend lines, once you have a violation of a trend line, you should expect price to come back to the downside, giving you something like a retracement or a retest. Then you can expect a movement again to the upside. So just looking at the DXY currently, we know there's a possibility, or there's a high potential, the long-term move on the DXY, it's most likely going to be a movement again to the upside, testing areas like this. And that's if you look at, let's say, the monthly time frame, and this piece of price action still holds. So we're looking at this as well on the monthly time frame. It's that impulse correction, impulse correction. So on the weekly time frame, you have a violation thing, yeah. If price comes back and it gives you that retest of the trend line that's been violated on the weekly time frame, then you could see this price moving to the upside. taking out these areas and most likely taking out areas like this. So there's a high possibility all those things can happen. So you move again to the weekly time frame. So you understand what's happening on the monthly time frame. And hold on, the reason I was bringing this on the monthly time frame is because you might see this price testing these areas, and once the pullback starts coming in, the pullback you're looking on the weekly time frame, the pullbacks can come in like really aggressive, and you see price breaking out of the weekly, out of this monthly trend line, and you see price just moving again to the downside. So it's very important you look at it from multiple time frames. Have like this bigger picture thing. What's the monthly time frame telling you? What's the weekly time frame telling you? So based on what the weekly time frame is telling me, so looking at this pair, I'm still expecting prices to pull back to the downside. Then you can see buyers stepping in. So, and this will align with what's happening on the monthly time frame. Now if you look at this on lower time frames again, let's step down to the daily time frame. So you're just going one time frame at a time, and you're trying to understand the price action thing. So if you look at this, lower lows, lower lows, lower lows, price made a low right here, and we've looked at this counter trend line thing, and price is now trading outside. So I'll point something out on the daily time frame. We had a violation of this trend line, and if you look at this piece of price action right here, you should ask yourself, like, why is price taking so much time around an area like this? It's because once you see price, so you get a push to the upside and you start seeing this messy price action, something like this, it tells you there's a high possibility this price is getting ready to move in the opposite direction, and stuff like this is just like a temporary push to the downside, then price can resume its movement again to the upside. So when you look at it on the daily time frame, you're seeing the same price action thing right here. It's just this difficulty around this area for price to move to the upside. So it tells you there's a high possibility we could see prices coming to the downside, and if this happens, then it aligns with what we've been talking about. It's a violation of this trend line, and you're waiting for prices to come back to the downside. The reason you're waiting for this price to do something like this is just so you can validate these lows right here, because if there's an inability for prices to take out these lows and go impulsively to the downside, then you could expect the aggressive buys again to kick in. So that's what I'm looking on the daily time frame now. Based on this consolidation thing we're seeing here, which is a high possibility for prices to move to the downside, let's look at the 8-hour time frame, and we'll zoom into those areas and see what's happening actually. So once you zoom in on the 8-hour time frame, same piece of price action what was looking on the daily time frame, same thing right here. You had this trend line and price took it out, so we had price trading outside, and you had a test of this trend line right here. But with the pullback I'm expecting, so I'm still expecting a pullback to come in. This pullback is not based on the 8-hour time frame, because if you look at the daily, this is it. So when you look at the daily time frame, you're looking at this overall trend line right here, and we haven't had a test of this trend line. So we're still expecting prices to come down, giving us a test of this area and a possible move to the upside. Now if you look at the 8-hour time frame, I was looking at this structure right here on the 8-hour time frame. So based on the 8-hour time frame, this is the structure I was playing with right here. So based on the 8-hour time frame, you have price testing this area, and normally once you get a like let's say a violation and then a test, you should expect prices to move to the upside impulsively. So there's a problem because now prices consolidating around an area like this, which tells you there's a high possibility the price is going to move to the downside. When you look at it from the daily time frame, you understand why this consolidation thing is happening right here, and there's just a high possibility for the DXY to come to the downside. Then after this movement to the downside or the retest, you can expect prices again to move to the upside. So we saw the 8-hour time frame already. That's it right there. So with the 8-hour time frame thing, yeah, as you move into lower time frames, you should expect some kind of difficulty around an area like this. So we made these highs already, so you could see price trading within this area coming again to the upside. But once you look at this on lower time frames, you understand what I'm talking about. Price is moving to the upside, but there's that difficulty for price to move to the upside. So you're looking at a push, and there's that difficulty. It's struggling to move to the upside, so there's a high possibility you could see a reversal coming in. So that's on the 8-hour time frame. Let's step down to the 4-hour time frame. and we'll look at this. So there's certain areas I'm looking at on the DXY. So first, you look at this space right here. I'm just gonna zoom in. So let's go like really deep with the price action thing. So you look at this, you had an impulsive move to the upside, price took out these highs, just a shallow break to the upside. There was a deeper pullback, this was a news event thing, and price took out these highs again. But when you look at how price is taking out the highs, it's not impulsive. It's like, all right, I'm just gonna spike here and then pull back. I'm gonna spike and then a pull back. So I'm expecting the same thing. You might see price taking out this area. So you might see price trading up into this area, taking out this area as well. Then you might see the seller stepping in again, because every time there's a shallow breach of these highs, you see a deeper pullback coming in. There's a shallow breach of the highs, you see a deeper pullback coming in. So we might see a shallow breach of this area, and I'm still expecting a deeper pullback on the DXY. So coming into next week, the game plan for me on the DXY, it's a movement to the upside, an inability for prices to move higher. So once you start seeing this inability for prices to move higher, then I'm expecting sellers to come in on the DXY, just taking prices again to the downside and giving us a test of this trend line thing, which we're looking on the daily time frame. That's my game plan right there on the DXY. So if you was looking at this piece right here, I'm actually expecting this trend line to get, so if you put a trend line right here, I'm expecting a violation of this trend line next week. So I'm expecting a movement thing to the upside, and I'm expecting a violation of this and a further movement to the downside. So there's a trend line actually, or currently, on this space, and you can put it by the way. So let's see. If you want to, you can do the channel one. So if you put this piece right here, so you can look at it this way, and I hope it's visible because, hold on, let's see. Put this right here, and what time frame is that? We're looking at it on the hourly. Perfect. So if you're looking at this trend line, there's a high possibility this trend line is going to get taken out coming into next week. So when there's too many trend lines, I don't like it. That's why I like taking out the trend lines and just looking at price action. But if you're looking at this based on the explanation I've given already, this inability, and you're seeing how there's this difficulty for price to take out these highs, you might see another push again to the upside. And the more price finds it difficult to go through, then you're expecting a push to the downside for the DXY to trade lower, so we can have a proper test of this daily area right here. So that's my analysis right there on the DXY. So I can take this off and let's see if there's anything on the hourly time frame. So the hourly time frame is just like, it's mostly for entries for me. But when you look at it on the hourly time frame, you see price taking out these highs, it's a shallow break to the upside. Price is taking out these highs, it's a shallow break to the upside. So you're looking at the highs and how price is moving to the upside. It's difficult. There's that difficulty for price to move to the upside. So everything right here tells you a story. Now, there are certain things we look at in the community and how you can anticipate if this is going to sell eventually and where it's going to sell. So looking at this, and based off of how we look at price action, we're still expecting another push to the upside and a possible breach of this area right here. Once you get a breach of this area, an inability for prices to go through, then we could see the movement thing to the downside coming on the DXY. Now you understand why the positions I have, I think I can show you guys. You understand why the positions I have on this pair, like gold, why I'm still holding these positions and why I'm still holding this position right here. And it's simply because of what I'm anticipating on the DXY. Now I could be totally wrong with my analysis, then I'll reanalyze everything and manage those positions accordingly. But that's my analysis right there on the DXY. So I'm expecting a movement thing to the upside, expecting a movement to the upside and inability for prices to go through. Then I'm expecting another push to the downside. So that's it right there for me on the DXY. And I'll put this on the 4-hour time frame. Yeah, let's keep it this way, or probably the daily. So let's keep it this way. So we're still expecting a push to the downside on the DXY. So an inability, then a push to the downside. Now I'm gonna use this bias on the DXY and analyze gold and show you guys what I'm looking at on gold. All right, guys, let's look at gold. Alright guys, so here's gold on the weekly time frame, and it's really amazing when you look at price action and just paying attention to the things that actually make sense. So looking at gold on this time frame, on the weekly time frame, what's the bigger picture play on gold? Now, I said this, I think, a couple of weeks back. We're expecting prices to move all the way to 4,000. Now, with recent price action, we're still headed to 4,000, but based on what I explained on the DXY, you're seeing the same thing happening on gold right now. So you're looking at this piece right here. So here's on the weekly time frame. I just want to point this out. You had this areas taken out, and you had this areas taken out, and every time you have this highs taken out, you get a pullback thing here, and you see an impulsive movement to the upside. You get this pullback, and you see an impulsive movement to the upside. Now, we've had this consolidation for a very long time. If you're comparing the consolidation that came in here compared to this consolidation or compared to this pullback. Now, we've had price consolidating within this area for a very long time compared to this one. And once you look at it, it's the same price action thing I was explaining. You get an impulse and you get this difficulty for price to move. So what it's telling you is, in as much as we're still expecting prices to move all the way to 4,000, which I believe price is going to get to 4,000 based on the principle of psychological levels, once you go through one psychological level and you breach this area, and sometimes you see price coming back to test this psychological level, then you see price moving to the next. It's like based on logic. An inability of a price to go through 3,000, you're expecting prices to head all the way to 4,000. So once you start putting in all these pieces together, now you're looking at this on the weekly time frame. There is this consolidation thing on the weekly time frame, and you might ask yourself certain questions. If there's this consolidation, why do we expect prices to get all the way to like 4,000? And that's because you need the consolidation sometime to give you, let's say, a pullback and a delivery to certain areas, and then you expect prices to move again to the upside. So it's very okay for you to expect those pullbacks and those consolidations. But looking at this on the weekly time frame, I'm still expecting this highs to get taken out. This highs right here. Once we see this highs taken out, then I'm expecting a deeper pullback on gold and for a movement again to the upside. So that's what I was trying to point out on the weekly time frame, is just the fact that we're having this consolidation thing on the weekly time frame. And what this consolidation tells you is there's a high possibility we might see a deeper pullback. And once you start looking at it this way, then you start appreciating this other trend line thing. So it's an impulse, correction, impulse, correction. Impulse, we're expecting a correction and a pullback to an area like this, and for prices to move again higher. So that's something you can look on the weekly time frame. Now let's step down to the daily time frame. And once you step down to the daily time frame, I've seen lots of people talking about this consolidation thing, and I've seen people sitting or like this, like, I'm not going to trade during this period because price is consolidating. Now it's very okay for you to say price is consolidating like this, but within this consolidation, there's still lots of price action you can play with. So looking at this on the daily time frame, what's my bias on this time frame? We've had an impulsive movement thing from here, from 3,000, and we had price stopping at an area like this. For the pullback thing to come in after the consolidation I showed you guys on the weekly time frame, for us to have those sells and for prices to actually test this trend line, we need to see these areas taken out as well. Then you can see a delivery coming again to the downside. So that's what I'm expecting based on the way I look at price action. Now, if you use the same principles I've been explaining like during my previous analysis, I'm looking at an impulse and I'm waiting for a correction and for price to move higher. Now you look at the same thing right here, what's an impulse, then a correction, and then price moving to the upside. Same thing, impulse, correction, price moving to the upside. So if you look at the same thing, you're looking at this piece to this area right here. It's an impulse and there was a correction, so we're still expecting these highs to get taken out. You do the same thing on the next piece of price action. It's an impulse right here, it's a correction, and we're expecting this area to get taken out. You narrow this down again to like the price action on lower time frames. It's an impulse, it's a correction. This area was been like I was expecting this to get taken out, which it got taken out. So we had that trade idea. You have another impulse into correction. We're expecting these highs to get taken out. So that's my bias on gold. I'm still expecting prices to take out this piece, and I'm going with the same principle. It's an impulse correction takeout, impulse correction takeout thing. So that's on the daily time frame. If you step down to the 8-hour time frame, let's look at this on the 8-hour time frame and try to make sense of what's actually happening. So on the 8-hour time frame, if we pay attention to this piece right here, so we're looking at this structure, impulse right here, there's a correction, and this highs got taken out. That's an impulse right here, that's a correction. We're expecting this highs to get taken out. So coming into next week, there's a few things we can do, or there's certain things we might see depending on how price plays out and depending on what happens on the DXY, because I'm still heavy on the sales to come in on the DXY. I'm still heavy on this sales to come in on the DXY for this price to move to the downside. I'm still heavy on this bias on the DXY. Now if that happens, then you're looking at gold, and there's certain areas that I'm expecting price to take out. The first one, I'm expecting price to take out this area right here, so we can put an alert at this area. So let's put an alert right there. So I'm expecting those highs to get taken out. Now what is price doing currently, and how do you expect these areas to get taken out? So first thing, you look at an impulse like this, you get a correction, and what happens after the correction? You see price coming back, trying to test this trend line. So if you apply the same principle thing on this piece of price action happening currently, you have an impulse to the upside, you have a correction, you have this counter trend line thing. So I'm expecting prices again to trade a little bit lower, not going impulsively to the downside, like taking out these areas and taking out these areas. I'm actually expecting some sales to come in, but maybe to areas like this, then you could see prices moving again to the upside, taking out this area. So when you look at this, then it gives you another structure. So there's just a lot you can look at. There's a trend line thing you can put here, and it's going to give you a channel. So if you get a pullback that comes in to an area like this, you could see price taking out these highs, maybe another pullback thing, but eventually we'll still move into the upside. So eventually, the bigger picture play, if I had to use the 8-hour time frame, is this structure right here. It's an impulse, it's a correction, inability for prices to go lower, and I'm expecting prices to take out 34.50 on the 8-hour time frame. So let's look at this on the 4-hour time frame then. So perfect. So on the 4-hour time frame, again, it's the same thing I was explaining on the 8-hour time frame. You have an impulse right here, you have a correction, you put a counter trend line thing, you see price testing this area, then an impulsive movement to the upside. So if you do the same thing on this piece right here, it's an impulse, you get a counter trend line thing, price testing it, and the movement thing again to the upside. So we could see a deeper pullback coming in, and it's just for better prices and a better discount again, and for price to move again to the upside. And sometimes this deeper pullbacks is going to confuse you a little bit, but it's the same thing. It's an impulse, it's a correction, and for prices to move again higher. So this is what I'm looking on the 4-hour time frame, and there's certain areas I'm expecting prices to take out coming into next week. If we get the aggressive sales on the DXY, then we could see this area 34.50 taken out. Now I wasn't expecting this price to move like pretty slow this way, so I was expecting once we had the buys of this area, so we started buying from this area, had a crash on this, closed at about 2%, got in on this position right here, had another entry right here. So I wasn't expecting it to go like really slow, but if you have to go the market flow thing, then it's just this, it's a slow movement thing. So that's what I'm expecting, and you can look at this on the hourly time frame. Let's bring this on the hourly time frame right there. All right guys, cool. So let's keep this on, take this off the hourly. Perfect. All right guys, so this is what I'm looking at currently, and all these are the positions I have currently. The first one, you have this one right here, and you have the second one right here. Same explanation what's happening on the 8-hour time frame, the 4-hour time frame, and the daily. You get an impulse thing, you get a correction, you're expecting the highs to get taken out. You get an impulse, you get a correction, and I'm expecting these highs to get taken out. So we had a spike thing right here from a news event. I'm still expecting these highs to get taken out because there's a setup we're looking at that explains why we're expecting these highs to get taken out. So we might see prices coming down lower, and you can put a counter trend line right here just to see if price is gonna step down to areas like this. step down to areas like this, or maybe areas like this, and you see prices moving again to the upside. So there's just a lot you can look at, but I'm going to look at the DXY, and I'm saying this again, the consolidation thing happening on the DXY, I could be completely wrong, but based on this consolidation and the way I've seen price acting over time, I'm expecting some sales to come in. If I'm right with this analysis on the DXY, then we should keep holding the buy positions we have on gold and expecting it to keep making this impulsive movements to the upside. And if I'm wrong, then you'll see price taking this area out, price taking this area out, and price taking this area out most likely. But I'm still gonna hold my positions in, and yeah, I'm gonna hold it, I'm gonna manage it and look at what price is doing, look at what the DXY is doing, and I'll manage it accordingly. So if you want to get involved in this pair, so unless you're really going to lower time frames to look for entries, if you want to get involved, I would say wait for a better pullback thing, depending on how the pullback comes, maybe to areas like this. If you can get a good pullback, then you can go in again, expecting the movement to the upside. But you want to be very careful once price gets to an area like this, that if we get a proper pullback thing, you want to be very careful if price gets to those areas, and just manage the positions accordingly. So that's it right there for me. That's the analysis, and I hope this makes a lot of sense, and I hope this helps you as well if you're looking at prices coming into next week. So that's it right there, guys. And again, make sure you're patient with your analysis, stay consistent, and make sure you're praying all the time. All right, guys, I'll see you during the next one. Bye for now.